right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I want to talk about today, this interview done with Big Ramy. And this was done on a YouTube channel called Yusuf Sabri Mindset. Now, the interview was not done in English, but it was translated on screen with closed captions in English, kind of a rough translation. You guys can read along on the screen and see kind of some of the points that Ramy was making in this interview. But I thought it was interesting for a number of reasons, because one of the topics that Ramy addresses here is one of the big criticisms that Ramy gets, and that is his social media presence, or really lack thereof, as Mr. Olympia. So I do think Ramy made some good points as it pertains to that. Ramy talks about other sports, and he says, you know, the point of being a sportsman is not your social media presence. It doesn't determine whether or not you win or lose. It's how good of a sportsman you are. And he says, you know, when bodybuilding is judged, the judges aren't going to take away a title from somebody or give somebody a title just because they have more social media engagement. I agree with that, 100%. I think they even asked Ramy the question specifically, if someone was a little bit less good of a bodybuilder than Ramy, but had a bigger social media presence, but it was close between him and Ramy, would the judges give it to the guy with the bigger following? And Ramy's like, of course not. And I agree with that. But I think it's a little bit of a different situation with Ramy, because Ramy has already won the title. So I don't think the conversation is somebody going to win because they have more social media presence? I think the conversation is, once you've won the biggest title in bodybuilding, the title of Mr. Olympia, and you've already now become the worldwide face of bodybuilding, the worldwide face of the Mr. Olympia title, the worldwide face of the IFBB. You are, whether you like it or not, you're the ambassador for bodybuilding all throughout the world. So the issue is not, is social media going to make you win or lose a show? The issue is, when you are the best bodybuilder in the world, when you're the face of the sport, does that come with a certain responsibility or maybe obligation to the fans, to the brand, and to the sport to be an active representative? And honestly, I don't think the social media thing is really that big of a deal. I don't think that Ramy, well, he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to post anything. Would it be nice if Ramy was very active on social media and putting out a ton of content as Mr. Olympia, as a representative of the sport, trying to grow the sport, broaden the fan base, broaden his fan base, motivate, inspire, whatever? Would that be nice? Yes. Does he have to do it? No. I think the issue more so with Ramy is specifically the events that he blew off. And Ramy does make some points in here about the cultural differences between the U.S. And where he's from. And I agree with that too. I think that is a good point, that some of the U.S. fans, the U.S. media, as they called it, might not fully understand Ramy's lifestyle or where he's coming from or his culture, or maybe some of the reasons why he's not as open and as sharing on his social media. And I think that is a fair point. But I also think still the heart of the issue is like these events that he blew off. Like, the social media thing isn't as big of a deal as him saying, okay, I'm Mr. Olympia, I'm going to come to the Arnold Classic, I'm going to sign these autographs, and then not going. Or him saying, okay, I'm Mr. Olympia, I'm going to come to the president of the IFBB's event, the Pittsburgh Pro, I'm going to guest pose because I'm representing the sport of bodybuilding, I'm representing the brand of the Olympia, I'm representing the IFBB, and I'm here for the fans of all three of these things. Then he just doesn't show up. I think that's more so the issue, in combination with the lack of social media presence, because if he's not doing the events and he's not active on social media, what role of ambassadorship is he taking on with that title of Mr. Olympia? Really not much. And I know a lot of people like to reference the reign of Dorian Yates, where Dorian Yates would just go completely dark mode. He wouldn't post, well, there was nothing to post because there wasn't social media, but you wouldn't hear from him until the Olympia the following year. You wouldn't see anything from him until the Olympia the following year. That was a different time. That was in the 90s. Things are different now. The world is different now. In bodybuilding, the IFBB, the Olympia, it's a business. And right now, for a business to grow, for a brand to grow, for a sport to grow, social media is a key aspect of that. So as the ambassador for the sport, for the brand, for the organization, you would think the brand, the business, and the face of that brand, that business, would want to do as much as possible in that position to help grow the sport of bodybuilding. And it just doesn't feel like Ramy has necessarily been doing that. So I don't know. I want to get your guys' opinion on this because I can definitely see both sides of it. I do think there's a big cultural barrier that maybe there's some things that we might not understand about Ramy or might not understand about his culture or his life that might be factors into why he's doing things the way he's doing them. But I also see the other side of the coin that he's already won the title. And with that title, there does come a degree of responsibility to grow bodybuilding, to represent bodybuilding, to be an ambassador for bodybuilding. So I can see both sides. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Ramy has done a good job as an ambassador for the Olympia? Do you think he needs to do anything as an ambassador for the Olympia? Or do you think it's okay? I mean, is the mindset that, okay, I've won the title, the job is done. All I have to do now is prep for the next show. Is that fine? Is there nothing wrong with that? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about the big Ramy situation. But if you want to check out this full interview, I think it was like 2 hours long. There'll be a link to that channel in the description box below. Very interesting stuff. And again, it is translated on the screen. Now, also going along the same lines with that previous story, the next story also relates to big Ramy and losing a supplement sponsor. So Dennis James on a recent episode of his podcast talked about this. The Menace podcast, by the way, if you want to check it out. So around the time of this Pittsburgh Pro guest posing and Ramy not showing up, he stopped working with the sponsor that he had, which was Enhanced Labs, which is a company affiliated with Tony Huge. And as you guys know, Tony Huge is a pretty controversial figure in the industry, and there apparently is no love lost between Dennis and Ramy and Enhanced Labs. He says in this podcast that they're the most unprofessional supplement company that he's ever seen. And he says essentially Ramy didn't lose the sponsor because of anything that he did wrong or anything that he didn't do or show up to. But the fact of the matter was there was like 3 different distributors that were paying Ramy whatever the monthly amount was. And essentially they stopped paying Ramy for several months. They tried to go behind Dennis's back and renegotiate a lower deal with Ramy where they paid him less. And Dennis said, look, they were just shady. They were crooked. And we stopped working with them because they weren't paying Ramy. So he clarifies the record there. Ramy didn't lose any sponsors because of the Pittsburgh Pro or because of anything else. It was a completely unrelated issue, according to Dennis James. And the final story that I have for you guys today, I thought this was like an interesting thing that this was causing such a big commotion on social media, but I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen this. Seth Feroce, he's getting a lot of blowback right now because he posted a picture holding the paw of a bear that he hunted and killed with the intention of eating. So a lot of the comments were definitely very anti what he was doing, but I don't think a lot of the people commenting or a lot of the people that were mad fully understand that he wasn't doing this for sport. He wasn't doing this just for the hell of it. He was doing it for food. He's not wasting it. He's not wasting any part of the bear. He's going to be eating it. I just thought it was interesting that so much of the bodybuilding world was so taken aback by this. And Seth, in his response video, had a really good point. He's like, if you guys eat meat and you don't kill the animal yourself, and you're mad about me killing the animal that I'm going to eat myself, then just shut up. You're a hypocrite. And I think that's a fair point. The only point that I did think was fair in some of the criticisms of the people that were mad at Seth, and this is a tricky one, right? Because how do we determine which animals are okay to eat and kill and which ones aren't? But the only comment that kind of made me think, that's kind of a good point, was someone said something along the lines of, why a bear? And they said, I understand if it were like a survival situation where you're out in the woods and that was the only thing there and you had to eat, you had to kill the bear, but you're not in that situation. So why a bear? They said, I'd be fine with you killing a deer or an elk, but the bear seemed to this commenter like a trophy thing. Like it wasn't necessary, I guess was his point. And that was the only comment that I kind of paused and I was like, I guess that's a fair point. I mean, it is a bit unusual and it does seem a bit unnecessary, but I'm not saying I'm against Seth doing it. I'm just saying I could see a little bit of both ends of the spectrum. So I kind of want to know where you guys stand on this. What did you guys think about Seth Feroce's post? Personally, I was pretty shocked that it got the backlash that it got. There was a lot of comments on there and there was a lot of people talking about this, and I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. But let me know where you guys stand on this issue, hunting in general, I guess, and then also specifically the hunting of bear. That's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. Click that bell notification icon. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power. signing out.